My name is Kevin Farrell. I'm the director of the Human Research Protection Program here on main campus. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the IRB, the dreaded IRB that everybody's always fearful of and hear rumors about how it'll take a year or two to get my stuff approved. I hopefully will calm everyone down from that being the thought, and that the reality is that we've gotten a lot better since we've become live on main campus. We actually started our office about a year and a half ago. It used to be handled by our Health Science Center, and just for various reasons, we thought it'd be more efficient to bring it back onto main campus, so we've been running for about a year and a half now. And we primarily deal with social behavioral type of studies. Sometimes you will see some biomedical studies that happen to be on main campus, and I'll talk a little bit about how those are handled. But just to begin with, the definition of human subject research, basically it's broken out into two parts. You know, the part that's the human subjects and the part that's the research. That's what defines if it needs to go to the IRB or not. When it comes to human subjects, we're dealing with a situation, are you having any type of interaction or intervention with a participant? So for instance, if you're just observing students that are wearing UNM sweatshirts walking down around campus and you just want to count the number of them for your study, that's not really interacting or being involved with them. It's only until you say, hey, I want you to fill out this survey and I have this information, is that's when it's actually interacting with them. That's some kind of the difference with that. And then, are you collecting any type of private information, the data, that also qualifies as human subjects type of work. And then research is systematic investigation designed to develop and to continue generalized knowledge. It includes stuff like research development, hypothesis testing, evaluation. Some examples of what can or could and can be considered human subject research: focus groups, interviews, surveys, questionnaires, quality assessments, quality improvement, observations, involving interactions and interventions, and much, much more. So there's a grayness on purpose. When these regulations were created 30 years ago, now we're going on, it was intentionally gray because there was a lot of concerns about participants being treated wrongly. There's various examples throughout history. But they wanted to make sure that they had something that covered everything. And hence why they're, and can be perceived as overburdening, is because of that situation. But depending on what it's classified as will depend on what you have to do once it is something submitted that we do realize has to go to the IRB. Our institutional review board is the group that actually is the group that handles the reviews and makes the decisions on behalf of the university to protect participants. Our board currently is roughly 18 members, give or take one. Various disciplines throughout the university, primarily faculty, but we also do have unaffiliated members on the committee. We do have scientific and non-scientific committee members. We have prison and child reps, so it's a well-represented group that actually are the ones that will be the ones actually deciding, is the project approved to go forward, the research project. And the IRB has the authority to, on the behalf of UNM, to approve, disapprove, modify human subject research, conduct continuing reviews, monitor consent process, conduct of human research, suspend, terminate, and there are some times that we've had to do that in the past, investigate allegations, complaints, and events. In the end, the board is there to assist the researcher. We're not there to try to dictate what you're trying to do when it comes to your research. However, they are there to make sure that the participants are protected. So we constantly go through training. We make sure that we focus on the human subject participant protection part of the research and not be overwhelming, making changes overall to what you're trying to do. Because in the end, we just want to ensure that whoever's participating on your project is going to be safe and protected going forward. The IRB at UNM, it gets a little complicated, the IRB here, because you're actually dealing with two different IRBs possibly. Like as I earlier said, you have our group that deals with social behavioral, and then you have HSC that still deals with the biomedical. So for right now, the way that we work that is, if you're a main campus investigator, you have to initially submit to the main campus IRB, the Office of Institutional Review Board. Once it gets to our office, we'll take a look and we'll decide that, hey, is this something that's more biomedical in nature that needs to go over to HSC? And if so, we'll help transfer that over with you to HSC for that review. And that's how it works, because they said HSC still has the authority over biomedical type of research on campus. So there's two systems you're going to hear about. One's IRB Net and the other one's Click IRB. You do not want to start anything in Click IRB. That's HSC's system. Ours is IRB Net. So just always make sure that when you're starting something on main campus, you're a main campus investigator. Start on that side. If you know it's biomedical, you know you're doing something that's related, you can always call us ahead of time before you even submit it and say, hey, we have this particular project. We know it's going to be known as biomedical. I don't want to get too far ahead submitting stuff into IRB Net. Can you help advise? And we can help move things along a little bit quicker that way. That's some screenshots of IRB Net. It's a very simple system. It's a pretty much out-of-box solution that a lot of universities across the country use. And then this is a process of what happens. Just to explain, it's kind of hard to see from far away. Basically, when you submit your project to our office, we do an initial pre-review. We're making sure all the documents that are required for review are there. That we have the protocol, we have your application, we have your project team list. We make sure that they've done all their city training. We also look to see if you have a consent form, if you haven't requested it to be waived, that we actually have that consent form so we can read that. Basically, that's what's happening during the pre-review. And then they even assist sometimes if there's something unclear in the protocol or something like that, just to make sure that we can speed up things. The purpose of the pre-review is to try to get as much together and make sure it's as good as possible before going to reviewers, so you don't have to worry about back and forth after the reviewer sees it. Because the reviewers are anonymous. You're sending it to the reviewer, and then you're not getting that direct feedback. You're just getting a letter telling you that, hey, this needs to be changed, or there's a problem, or it's approved. So a lot of times we can deal with some of that in between and get that cleaned up before it gets to reviewer. So the first step is goes to pre-review. Then it's assigned to a reviewer depending upon the level of risk associated with it, and depending upon if it falls or not under exemption. So it could either be exempt, it could be a category. For instance, if you are basically doing some type of research on a class that you're currently conducting, and you just want to test how the class structure is going so you can make changes next semester. That most likely, and I say most likely, I always still say to submit to us and make sure, could possibly be exempt. They could fall under exemption category. And then that means basically that as long as nothing else changes in that project, you don't have to worry about continuing reviews going forward. You can pretty much complete that project and not have to worry about submitting anything else to our office. If it's expedited, and I always caution, expedited does not mean the Webster Dictionary definition of it's going to be fast. Expedited just means that it goes to one reviewer instead of the whole board to review, because it's considered minimal risk. It doesn't look like there'll be much harm or potential harm to participants, so we can allow that to go to one reviewer instead of waiting for the next month's full board. So that's why it's considered expedited, excuse me. And then the final one is full board, of course. If it's anything that's considered greater than minimum risk, then those go to the full board to review. Once that review takes place, then you'll get a determination letter that'll let you know if it's approved, modifications needed, more information needed, etc. And then we'll be able to act going forward based upon that decision from either the reviewer or the board. And then the review is complete, hopefully, once it's been approved. Go forward. Approvals right now are done on an annual basis, no matter what level it is, unless it's exempt. So once you do get approval, you have a year to do the work until you have to submit all the documentation for review again for the next year to be approved again to continue. Any questions? It's a lot to go through in 10, 15 minutes. So, yes?
I don't know whether the question is for this part or going ahead of this presentation, but when does we not need IRB because we are doing evaluation for program improvement? So how
Yeah.
can we find that?
If you ever, we're trying to put some more resources on the website to help distinguish between what would be categorized as research and what definitely need to and what doesn't. The problem is that a lot of times it's hard to do that in an easy manner, because a lot of times, unless we know the full picture,
Yeah.
it's hard to be able to say yes, you're definitely okay, or no. To truly be able to make that determination, you normally need to have you know, the whole picture of what's happening to be able to make that decision.
Okay.
However, whenever it's that gray area, just feel free to call. The biggest thing I always recommend everybody to do is to, in general, feel free to call our office to have consult meetings set up. That's the best thing to get done because one of our analysts will sit down with you and walk through everything and answer any questions and get everything cleared up beforehand. So they'll let you know if, yeah, this looks like it does need to go through or not. Best thing is to call, you can ask them initial questions or come in for a consult and they can help out that way. Yes?
Kevin, you just may want to remind folks that on renewals or continuation applications that they have to have a 30-day window.
Yes. Thank you. And that'll actually be on the, we have the new system, IRB Net, that we have will actually give you if I remember correctly, a 60-day notification, a 30-day notification, and then the day that actually expires. We're going to update the alerts on that because right now it just sends you, hey, 30 days before it expires without telling you any other information. So we are going to add that information on there and the alerts to say, when you first get the 60-day, to please have this turned in within 30 days. Because what we want to make sure is that we have ample enough time to review and get it approved before it expires and you have to completely stop work until that's done. So that's why we ask 30 days ahead of time. Granted, there's been a lot of changes we've done to try to improve the speed of reviews. We've added a vice chair to our board. We've added another analyst to our office internally. I'll be starting next week. We're definitely upping the personnel so we can start giving a better indication of how long it would take. You know, generally, we try to aim for, once a pre-review is completed, to try to get a review done if it's exempt or expedited, within a couple of weeks. And then at full board, of course, you have to wait till that full board meeting. But at least after that next week you will get a letter. That hasn't been always the case because we've been short personnel, primarily because the number of submissions to our office has somehow grown incredibly since we started on main campus from what used to be submitted, which is a good thing. So that means that, you know, I think people are opening up and seeing us as more helpful than being some of a burden. So they're submitting more things to us to make sure that it gets the proper review before going forward. So that's a good thing. Yes?
What's the length of the time that the approvals are good for? Is it annual or is it project specific?
Annual for that project is annual. Yeah. So once you get the approval letter, I'll have the dates of the approval period till it expires. So you'll know how long you have until it needs to come in again for another review if you're continuing past that 1 year. There's a bunch of initiatives to probably, in the future, hopefully, change that. There's just a big movement across the country to try to ease the burden of this process. And the federal government themselves realize that it's overburdening right now the way it is. So the good news is that there may be some future changes, but for now it's on an annual basis. He smiles because he's been through this for a while. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.